KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're the Real Estate Rat Pack. Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now, 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack!
Every morning.
Yeah. Our guests are looking at each other like, oh my gosh, who are these guys? And what have we gotten ourselves
We're the
into?
Real Estate Rat Pack. You know that, Rob.
Yeah, I know.
The Rat Pack Howl.
I've got it in stereo.
You got it in stereo every time.
I missed it last week. I was in San Antonio for the Texas Association of Realtor Conference. Had a great time. Learned
That is correct. How'd everything go over there?
It was wonderful. A lot of things are going to be changing in the industry. And
change is good.
Change is good. And it's inevitable. So
right.
There we go from there. So we've got a pretty exciting show today. This is I can't call you a team anymore. It's somebody I wanted to have had on the show for probably a year. And every time I say I'm at networking events, I go, David, I want to get you on. It's David Young,
David Young.
And Tamara. And Tamara, your last name is Mannon. Yes. So welcome to the show.
Good to be here, partner.
Anyway, he's very gracious to come join us, and he's got a great story to talk about. So one of the things we always like to ask a lot of our guests are, how'd you get into real estate? So kind of talk about that. So we were talking about it a little bit this morning before the show started.
Well, it happened back, the 80s in Houston was a very different time for a lot of people. And I'd had a very successful company, but when the Texas banks failed, they kind of took me with them. So in 1991, I was looking around, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I had liked real estate and felt that that might be the route for me. And probably like many of the listeners out there, they might have come to real estate or thinking about real estate as a second career. So in 1991, I made a total career change, and at that time joined Henry S. Miller. And everybody thinks that you get into real estate and you're going to make a lot of money. It's easy.
It's easy, isn't it?
Pick up money off the streets.
Anybody can do it.
So I don't mind, and I've told this story before, but my first year I made $29,000, and that was a long way from where I'd been. So if you've gone to the bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's back to the top.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit. How you started. You started with Henry S. Miller, and then you kind of evolved into this mega company, basically on your own.
Well, there's if you're successful in one industry, kind of as an entrepreneur, there's really skills that transfer over. But it's really a lot of hard work. For 20-some years, I've worked 7 days a week. And I continue today, and not necessarily because I have to, but I love people. I love the business. And I really like the looks from the top of the ladder better than I do from the bottom of the ladder. So there's something to say about that.
And you were actually an engineer by degree.
Yes.
And so how'd you make that transition? Because you were working for a company, oil.
Well, I had always been in engineering sales. I never got the engineering degree to sit on the board or to do that. It would always have been in a marketing and sales way. So those concepts carried over, very well. But it takes a while to develop your real estate skills. And I kind of kid and say, when I went to college, everything done in the mathematical world was done on a slide rule. And that was before calculators, before computers. And if we look today, what a world of difference there is. And we're going to talk about that some today and how we've had to go back and reinvent ourselves and how the industry has changed, because it's been a phenomenal ride, but you have to be willing to go back and retool yourself.
I would agree right there. One of the things we talk about all the time, I grew up in the technology field. And, I hold in my hand right now, in 1970, we didn't even have enough megabytes to go on a normal computer. And now you hold in your hand more power than we had 30 years ago with these mega computers that IBM was putting in these big areas. And so you're right, technology has had a big change over that period of time. Individuals now can conduct complete transactions on their phone or on their iPad, But as we talked about as well, what I like, and something we talked about between the break, is there's nothing that's ever going to take away, though, from the try and true way of shaking somebody's hand, of getting back to the basics of knowing who your client is and truly developing that relationship.
Something you touched on that is huge for me. It's a hot button for me. I talk about it all the time, and we were talking about this before the show. You said you work 7 days, and you don't take a day off. And for me, I said when you love what you do, why would you stop doing it to take time off?
Yeah.
I play all the time and I call it work, and I love what I do. And when you're building a world-class team or a company, you have to have that connection to a passion and to a love, because without it, you're not going to have the energy it takes to build that world-class team. Somebody who's out there running around being a realtor just because they lost a job or did whatever else, and now let me go ahead and I guess I'll sell houses.
The default career.
Yeah, the default
you know what?
career.
I'm not worried about my job. I can always go sell real estate, right?
That person
it's easy.
That person will never be able to compete against somebody that loves what they're doing, and that's selling homes.
Has the energy.
Because you want to do it 7 days a week. You're able to jump in there and compete at a much higher level, and that's I know a big part of why you have reached where you have.
When you see a lot of agents come and go, and you've sustained, and of course David always a credit to me to have been doing the first or second deal he ever did, which was back in 1990 some year, and but you've seen a lot of people not make it. What do you think the difference is that you've done so extremely well, and then some agents just drop out?
Well, I think so much of it is your work ethic. There's 27,000 agents in Houston today, and most of those agents might only do 1 or 2 transactions a year. But if you're going to make it a career, you've really got to put yourself to the grindstone with it. Education is extremely important. But the other thing that is, I think, critical, and the reason why we've got a lot of wonderful, successful agents, is they develop relationships. And that's really the bottom line of it. And a relationship that I'm extremely proud of, and one that I've had for almost 18 years, is my relationship with the Ciccarello companies, with Vincent Ciccarello and his wife Mary and Kelly and Jim Miller and Tom McQuilling and all of that group. I've been fortunate enough to be the listing agent for those properties for 18 years now. But the only way that you maintain that relationship is performance.
So we'd send an invoice over to the Ciccarello companies for
and let me tell you, that's something very impressive. Obviously, we know Ciccarello companies. We know what they build here in town. We know their model of excellency and the type of home they build. The fact that you've been doing business with them for 18 years really says a lot about you and your organization. To be able to maintain that, to be able to put that together, to be able to maintain that over a long period of time, 18 years with a builder. Most people don't realize how difficult that is. I mean, I can't stress that enough.
Well, I'm sure. And we can't tell a story because I was told we can't tell a story, but he actually took that account from another well-known broker, and it turned out to be a huge success for David.
It's 18 years.
We're not going to get into that.
Yes,
sworn to secrecy.
18 years into it, and let me tell you, they still build incredible homes on the Ciccarello companies.
But back to relationships, I think is really the key, and the other change that we've seen so much in our industry is to see it go from 20 years ago. A lot of it was part-time housewives. Well, today it is young people coming into the business, college graduates. They come to it as a career. Due to the legal ramifications today of real estate, you can't be a part-time agent and succeed, because we're in a very litigious society. So everyone out there that is not a real estate agent but looking for someone, make sure that you work with somebody who makes it a career and is knowledgeable, because they're going to help keep you out of getting into something you shouldn't get into.
I always think about those part-time agents that
Right.
say, I can't talk right now. I'm at my job.
And I know my wife's probably going to call me up later and say, tell him there's no such thing as a part-time housewife married to you, Chris. But no, that is funny, though. I think you're right. You know, one of the things I've seen a lot more, you know, I've been going on 12 years in the mortgage business, and I work, obviously, all my relationships are with agents. That's who I develop over a period of time. And one of the things I've seen is, you're absolutely right, the agents who used to be part-time, you don't see as many anymore. They're taking it now as a career. They're actually seeing this is something that you can do for a long term. This is something that if you develop it the right way and put the right processes and procedures and relationships in place, and you truly have it as a business, you know, you invest back into yourself. We talked about that during one of the breaks. You invest back into yourself, and you take it seriously. It can truly be a career. And that is something really, really neat to see.
Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier. Out on Memorial Drive, which is where your office is, it says David Young and Company, Coldwell Banker. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Who composes that piece? That who's in that office? And
Well, I purchased an office building about 10 years or so ago at the time when I wanted to start the team, and there wasn't room down at the office for Henry S. Miller. Shortly after that, Caldwell Banker purchased Henry S. Miller, and I maintained that relationship, and the other tenants were moving out of that office, so we were fortunate enough to have Caldwell Banker Memorial occupy the entire building. I basically had the team for a number of years, but realized that in order to continue to grow, we needed to broaden the base and broaden our name. So we went from David Young Team to David Young and Company with a little tagline of Houston's Corporate Boutique. And we work with under the Caldwell Banker Memorial umbrella. We have 15 agents plus our staff, which we'll talk about a little bit because we're very different than most quote teams would be, and we do a lot of support, for our agents. You know, today the energy corridor is such a dynamic area of our city. We're fortunate enough to be right in the heart of it. We work very closely with the manager of the energy corridor district. And he came for a presentation recently and said there was 26 new office buildings being built in the energy corridor. We're looking at another 40,000 people. What does that spell? Opportunity.
yes.
And I can absolutely see it because I go up and down I-10 living out in Katy and working off a city center area. And the cranes in the air are absolutely tremendous. And you're right, your office being right over there is, right past Eldridge off of Memorial is absolutely incredible. You're seeing all the development that's going on. And as you mentioned, I mean, those aren't small buildings. They're not building 1 or 2 story buildings.
BP's building on that campus of theirs, and everybody else is, kind of going to say.
Well, you've got Phillips 66 and their new corporate office going on right there on the corner of Eldridge. They've got multiples. Shell's made a big investment in their corporate campus right there. Technip has now put 2 new buildings up as well. I mean, you can go on and on to talk about all the oil and gas development that has been going on.
They got to live somewhere, don't they?
They have to live somewhere. And then all the way out to Katy, you still have all the new development going on with Geico putting their new call center out there, the Mason Park area. I mean, just incredible some of the things that are going. And David Young Company is right in the middle of that.
and
we love it.
Successful, exactly. So the typical teams are typically you had a buyer's agent and that, but you were talking about earlier that you've really kind of evolved from that. You actually, if someone needs a big company, you're a big company, but if somebody likes a boutique, you're a boutique. So you've kind of covered the ground, which is a really interesting and different concept out there, and it seems to be working for you pretty well.
Well, we've never believed that, I shouldn't say believe, there's a lot of good models. Our model was never one where we had buyer's agents and listing agents and then pass files along. What we wanted to do was to give our agents the tools to be young entrepreneurs, to be able to build their business as big as they could build it and give them all the tools to do so. And we'll talk about that probably in the next segment here of how we've grown.
I would absolutely agree. We are. This is somebody who's done radio before, by the way, knows exactly what those signals look like. But we are coming up against a break right now. Again, you can always reach us at 800-808-5548. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I won't dance. Don't ask me. I won't dance, madam, with you. My heart won't let my feet do things that they should do.